Hello, welcome to Krafting Kitty. My name is Erin, and it's Saturday, so it's time for my weekly roundup. Yeah! So what's a weekly roundup? Weekly roundup is where I go through my weekend crafting and usually, sometimes, maybe the things I've been reading. That's how I roll here. So in crafting, I go through any whips, works in progress, and FOs I might have for the week. This week, I once again have been kind of prolific on my finished objects, so I'm very excited. First of all, I have finished the Sally wrap. Look at that. Gloria is looking lovely in her Sally wrap. This is, I used latte cake in Kissy Kissy. This is a BagODay pattern tutorial. It is called like Easy Crochet Wrap. Hers is in all white. So if you look at the thumbnails and see one in all white with kind of this diamond pattern, that's the one. It'll be linked down below. But yes, this is beautiful. And I used just about 1.5 latte cakes for this. The reason I call it the Sally wrap is because Sally Horner so kindly sent me a Kissy Kissy latte cake so I could make this. So I first used Sally, so this contains all of Sally's cake, and then I used half of the one I had. So exciting! Oh, oop, it's fallen. Maybe it wants to be tried on. Let's see. I will say this is so silky soft. This is amazing. And I mean, you could just keep going. At first I was going to go until it was done. But then I tried it on and I thought this was a really good width for a little cozy wrap for me. And I really quite like it. Fashion show. Fashion. 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 I know, where's Bingo with her fashion when I need it? But yet I am so excited. And thank you again, Sally. You are the sweetest. And I am so very happy with my wrap. And I shall think of you every time I wear or see it. So for other finished objects, I was determined to use all of the remaining cake. And I did. So what we have here is, first I made a single crochet. This is just freehand. I didn't follow any pattern. Beanie. You can tell by the pom-pom who this is intended for. Bingo prefers a beanie, a pom-pom. I showed it to her when it was done and she tried it on. She said, "We're pom-pom, mama." So there you go. Beautiful. I like it. It's just all single crochets. And I thought I'd do single crochets to try to make a warmer one. Or like, you know, like just a tighter fabric to keep her little head warmer through the winter. And here it is. I think it's lovely. It's cute. It definitely is warm. One thing I've noticed though is, I'm not sure it comes out on the camera, but this is the right side of the fabric. The wrong side of the fabric seems much fuzzier to me. I think you can see that in the pattern or in the camera. It's much, much fuzzier. So I almost flipped it inside out for her, but then I did it this way because I also thought maybe having the fuzz on the inside would be fun for her little head. Who knows? And then I did a little kind of coordinating, matching cowl for her to have. And this is, again, just my own kind of freehand design. I did 3 rows of single crochet and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows of half double. Ended it with another 3 rows of single crochet, and that's what she has. And I do not recall what my starting chain was, but I just started chaining and then tried it on her and did a width that I thought looked nice. This is a little looser than the cowl I made her last winter, so we'll see. I'm not sure. And then I still had more left over than that, so I freehanded another beanie, and this one is just double crochets until I got to the end, and I did 3 rounds of single crochets to just have a little tighter cinch on the brim. So yep, very nice. And that used almost every scrap of that latte cake. I had the tiniest little ball, not even enough to make an experimental scrunchie with. So I'm very proud of that. It always feels so accomplished when you use the full supply of yarn. And then I continued my adventures in Tunisian crochet. Okay, so that hat and those two hats and cowl are all just my own freehand design. I didn't follow any tutorial for that, but certainly hat construction. I've done so many BagODay hats that I kind of, you get a feel for when she does double crochets, how many stitches she uses to start, and like single crochets, you get a hang of that. So I used that knowledge and then just went my merry way. Continued my adventures in Tunisian crochet, the washcloths. And so when I decided to do this, I went on YouTube and I just searched washcloth Tunisian crochet. And I just went, add to watch later, add. And I didn't really pay attention to what stitches or anything because I just wanted a variety to practice and learn to get better at it. Turns out I made the exact same washcloth as last week, this week, but by a different YouTube creator. So it was very nice to see the technique shown by another individual, and this was a creator I had not seen before. I'm totally forgetting her name. It was like Graceful Threads, Graceful something. It is in it'll be linked down in my description box if you want to see a different tutorial for the Tunisian simple stitch washcloth. I will say the dimensions on this were exactly the same. I mean, washcloths are pretty, there's a size you want a washcloth, so I'm not surprised they both picked a chain of 30 as their starting chain. It's a good washcloth size. And yeah, it was nice. I did make an oopsie here, and I've got just a touch of a leg that started. I must have somehow picked up an extra stitch, but I don't think it's that noticeable. And it's a washcloth. It's going to get wet. You're going to scrub with it. I don't think you'll notice. So I'm going to add that to my stash of washcloths for donation. I have 3 now, and I will forge ahead. The final finished object I have for this week is my hat for the LYS challenge. This hat I used, this yarn is Big Twist Cotton in Americana. And I used a Tunisian crochet hook. In this tutorial, I did go a little outside of what the tutorial said. I found that this yarn works up better for me using a 5.5 millimeter Tunisian crochet hook. So that's what I've been using. The first washcloth I made, I used the size recommended by the tutorial, and I felt it was a little loose. I wasn't super thrilled with the fabric. So for the next one, I tried a 5.5 and I thought that worked wonderfully. So I did 5.5 here again, and it does. I really like the fabric of that for a washcloth. Okay, for this next project, I use Malabrigo Rios, and this is the chameleon color I bought. And I did make Crystal at BagODay's original chocolate bonbon beanie. And Brian fell in love with this one, but he doesn't feel the color would be good for him. So he would like to go pick out his own color and have me make it. And here we go. I really like it. I think the pattern gets a little lost in the variegation of the yarn, but I really like it. I think it's pretty. I'm gonna rock this one. I really like this yarn. I know when I showed it, Granny D said she had a lot of it and she really liked this colorway, and I understand why. Like, it was beautiful in the hank, and then I caked it up and Brian was like, is that the same yarn? That's gorgeous. And then I worked it up and he's like, is that the same yarn? It's gorgeous. So it's just amazing to me how the different presentations of yarn can look so different. But yeah, I quite like this. I do think for Brian, I'm going to have to, I need to make, what is this part of the hat called? This is the brim body. call it body. So I think he might need one additional row of increases in the crown, and then he needs a slightly taller body. So I think I'm going to add an extra row to each of these sections. And then for me, I always prefer 3 rounds of single crochet for the brim. I believe in this pattern Crystal did 2, but I mean that's just a personal preference, and do whatever you like for your hat brims. So yeah, I think we're going to head to the LYS here this afternoon because I haven't gone for a couple of weeks to catalog my hats, and I'll see if Brian wants to go and pick out his color. So next week you might see another chocolate bonbon beanie in a different colorway. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Works in progress. What do I have? I have a couple. So first of all, as I said, I want to always have a bod project on the go. Brian made a new hire. So hooray, excitement all around. Right after Brian hired him, he announced that his wife is pregnant. Crafters deploy! So I am starting a brick stitch baby blanket from BagODay, and this is where I'm at. I think this is very pretty. We don't know. No! Brian does know the gender of the baby, but I've forgotten. So I just picked what I thought was a gender neutral color. And this is very pretty mint green. In Crystal's video, she uses the same yarn for the body and the border. I'm debating if that's what I'm going to do, if I'm going to change up the color. I don't know. So we'll see what I'm doing here. I'm using one of Ellie Leva's stitch markers on this project. I'm using my Susan Bates. Is that the 6mm? That is the 6mm crochet hook. And the yarn, I'm going to pick up one that I'm not using, is one of the Hirschner's Turkish Directs. I don't know if they have this one anymore, but it's the Minak Baby. If they do have it, it's likely under the House brand, which has a slightly similar name. Look for like Baby. But this is a very soft. It's making a very lovely plushy fabric. This is, I would say it's very similar to Red Heart with Love. It's very nice. Yeah, this colorway, 33475, but Hirschner's never used those numbers for this yarn. It would be just like mint or something. It's very nice. I'm very happy with that. I bought that originally in a 5-pack. I am about halfway done with one skein, and I'm this far. We're supposed to go for 68 rows. I think I'm on like 14 or 16. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. I'm in the middle of row 16. And there we go. So that is my bod project on the go. I'm sorry, I just came out of the shower before I did this, so here's a bit of a mess. And then my other project is I'm working on my giveaway item for the Krafting Kitty Creator Spotlight this month. So for July, we're doing Siren's crochet, if you don't remember. And I went through and I had a number of projects I thought I was going to make. And then I settled on this one because it's, I haven't done a lot of filet crochet, and I thought this would be very interesting. But then I pulled down the yarn I wanted to use with it, and I realized I didn't have enough. So I've tried to do some color work on it, and I think it looks nice. I think it's cute. Hopefully whoever wins it thinks it's cute. I am using my 4mm Susan Bates crochet hook on it, and it is the diamond. It's like Easy Diamond tote bag. My stitch marker is from Angela at My Precious Yarnery, and here it is. So I had to use a variegated yarn for the base, and then for the filet part, I went for the solid green. I was hoping to make it all solid green, but she said she used just about 5, and I didn't have 5. So this bottom part alone used 1.5. So I'm hoping the bottom part eats the you know, the little bit of the 5th one she uses, and the body takes the rest. Fingers crossed. this is where I tied on my next green. I think it'll be close because I'm at the halfway point of the diamond pattern for the first kind of round of diamonds, and you do 2 complete diamonds. So there we go. This is fun. I'm enjoying it. So I did have a difficulty at the beginning. When I started this bag, I misunderstood her starting chain. I thought she said 27, and I did it, and I didn't realize until I was completely done with the bottom that I had a problem because, you know, she says the stitch counts at the end of the rows. I just blithely plowed ahead and kept going, so I didn't realize I didn't have the right stitch count until I went to do the first filet round, and it didn't work out. So I went to the comments, and there are a number of comments that correctly identify the starting chain as 47. I had heard 27. It seemed like 27 was a common, as you read through the comments, it seemed like many people heard 27 as well. And English is not her first language, so I think if you have questions about a pattern you're working on, definitely check out the comments. It's likely that maybe someone else has encountered the same issue. And there we go. I have done other projects based on her tutorials, and I have not had an issue like that. So it was just an oddity of hearing, and it could have been that, you know, the kids were playing and there was extra noise. I don't know, but I certainly was not the only one to hear 27. And it was an easy fix. I just ripped it back down and went and recreated the base. And that's, although I do wonder if you could break it down to a smaller and make a slightly smaller bag, because I feel like this is going to make a gigantic tote bag, which I love as a giveaway item. I love having a more substantial project for you guys. So here you go. This I'm using Michael's Loops and Threads Capri Eco Cotton. This is green. This one is, I've got a couple more of them. Green speckle. So there we go. This is moving forward. I'm happy with it. I really am enjoying it. I don't do a lot of filet. I have yarn I purchased to make an Americana blanket, and I want to do a fiber spider is it which way filet blanket with it, but I've just never, it's never been the blanket that has drawn me at the time I've been starting a new blanket. So someday I will make that blanket with that yarn, and it'll be great. Another project I have is my socks, and here I'm using my Queen's Crafts by Bridget sock bag. I love it. So these are the strawberry socks I'm making for my son. Oh, nope, never mind. I told you the crochet hooks I used on those other projects. So here we go. We have my kids knit socks. Ooh, what's going on here? Oh, we're caught on a stitch marker. Okay. I'm using the Premier Fruits strawberry yarn. This is the pattern that comes up on premier.com. If you look at this yarn, you're going to get 2 patterns, an adult and a kid's version of socks. And here you go. It is very, very similar to the Crazy Sock Ladies vanilla socks. The pattern tells you to use DPNs. My DPNs were falling out, so I switched to a 9-inch circular, and it's working fantastically. I love it. This time I'm trying out my, I almost said ChowGoo again. These are not my ChowGoo needles. These are my Clover Takumi Bamboo, and I like them. I like them a lot. This one has a much smaller tip than my ChowGoo size 2. I guess I'm using US 2 knitting needles on this. But yeah, so I've got the cuff done, and I'm starting on the main body of the sock. We plow forward. I did alter on the first sock the toe decrease pattern. It felt like it was going to be too pointy, so I went back and used the decrease pattern that the Crazy Sock Lady uses on her vanilla socks on 9-inch circular tutorial. Final project I have to share is this hat. This came about because Chomps had picked this yarn out from Joann's. We were there looking at clearance. Red Heart Super Saver in the colorway Shaded Dusk. He wanted a hat and scarf out of it. I was sitting here cleaning the craft room and needed a break, and I had just happened to pick up this yarn to try to clean it and said, well, why don't I use it? Excuse Brian, that was a wicked sneeze. I do not have this tutorial flagged in my list, and I don't know why, but I'm doing a BagODay hat. It's a houndstooth. No, it's a oh my goodness, what do you call the stitch? Okay, so here's how you do it. Please tell me what the name of this is. Okay, so you do a double crochet, you go through the 2 loops, you pull up a loop, but you don't do like you should. So you pull that through immediately, then you yarn over, pull through 1 loop, pull through the second. That has a name, and it's not houndstooth. Oh my goodness, it's a something double. I'm totally blanking, but that's what you do. And you have to alternate, you have to turn the hat every row to get the up-down pattern to work. So that's what this is. It's a stitch that I used once before when I made Bingo's purple cowl. There I followed a John Boy tutorial, but it wasn't a double. It was I feel like it was a half double. I don't know. I don't remember, but it's not my first rodeo with this stitch, but it is not a stitch I am fully familiar with. So it's not what I normally do. So here I'm just practicing. The hat Crystal made with it, she had used a variegated yarn too. And she said, I think this would look better with a solid yarn. I tend to agree. I don't think the pattern's going to come through very well with this variegated yarn, but to me it's more about practicing the stitch rather than, you know, having it turn out perfect. It's just going to be a hat for Chomps this winter, and let's be honest, in all likelihood it's going to be lost on the playground at some point. Okay, so here we go. Sorry, I was looking down and crocheting on it instead of talking to you. So that is the final work in progress I have. So for other news this week, I don't know where oh, I've stacked all of my finished projects on top of my calendar. Stuff will be happening. Check out this summer fun video I put out. Might be relevant to something happening next week. Books. I am still reading The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss, but I've been taking the kids to the library every week as kind of an outing. But I have not been checking out books for myself because I've been reading that book. And I decided I wanted to start checking out a book to help encourage them to read their library books promptly. So I found a list on the BBC of like best books so far of 2023 and just started adding them to my pull list. And this one became available. Who Cries for the Lost? It's apparently it's a historic murder mystery, and it is part of a long series. I have not read anything by this author before, C.S. Harris, but I did not feel it was fine for me to jump in. She does a good job of, I think, introducing the characters, and it jumps right into the storyline. So I think often with big series, you get like parts that just feel so repetitive where they're trying to relay out the backstories for new readers. And this jumps straight into the story with like trickling in the backstories. So I think if you have read one of the many other books on the list, like the list is a full page here in the front. Here you go. That's the rest of the books in the series. I don't think you'd be like, oh, I've heard this before, lady. Move along. You get right to the action. Here, the mystery starts from like page 3. And I am so far on, I think I'm starting chapter 7. Yep, I'm at the start of chapter 7. It's moving along quickly. There's like 340 some pages in here. And yeah, I think I'll be done quite promptly with this one. The chapters are nice and short, so you can say, oh, I'm just going to read a chapter before I go to do this. And you feel like you've accomplished something and you're moving along. And that being said, I'm going to let you guys move along and say goodbye for now. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.